Let me tell you something smart women already know. You don't need 20 rules to run your life. You need two. Two rules that flip the script, shut down the noise, and put you back in charge. If you're tired of playing small, tired of waiting for permission, and so done living on everyone else's timeline, lean in. These two rules, they'll change everything. Starting with you. You've been trained to wait your whole life. Wait for approval, wait for the green light, wait for someone to notice how hard you're working and finally say, yes, you can. But smart women, the ones who break through, the ones who lead, they don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They stop waiting for someone to invite them to the table and realize they've been the damn table all along. You don't need permission to chase your dreams. You don't need to be tapped on the shoulder. You need to wake up and recognize that you're already qualified. You're already worthy. You don't need to shrink anymore. You've outgrown that version of yourself. The moment you stop waiting is the moment you take your power back. Think about how much time you've lost doubting yourself, second-guessing every move, holding back brilliance because someone might think you're too much. Smart women are done with that. They've realized that asking for permission is just fear in disguise. Fear that you're not enough, fear that you might fail, fear that you won't be accepted. But guess what? You will fail sometimes, and people won't always like you. And that's okay, because playing it safe is far more dangerous than being disliked. Playing small is not humble, it's self-sabotage. We've been taught that likability is the goal, but let me be honest. Being liked is not the same as being respected, and it's definitely not the same as being successful. Smart women understand the difference. They know that living to make everyone else comfortable is a fast track to resentment, burnout, and regret. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're chasing your goals. You don't need to justify your ambition. You were not put here to stay silent or make yourself small so others can feel big. That's not empowerment, that's erasure, and you're done with that now. Do you know how much potential you've buried under self-doubt? All those ideas you never spoke, all those steps you never took, not because you weren't capable, but because you were waiting for someone to say, yes, you're allowed. Let this be your wake-up call. No one is coming to grant you permission. No one is coming to push you. That's your job. That's your responsibility. The women who win are not the ones who never feel afraid. They're the ones who act anyway. Fear shows up for everyone, but smart women don't let it call the shots. They move forward, scared if they have to, but always forward. Confidence doesn't come from waiting to feel ready. It comes from doing the thing before you feel ready. It comes from showing up even when your voice shakes, even when your hands sweat, even when the doubt is screaming. The truth is, you build confidence by proving to yourself that you can handle it not once, but over and over. That's how you create unshakable belief. Not through affirmations or waiting for the stars to align, but through action, through courage, through repetition. Smart women understand that. They use fear as fuel and treat discomfort as their compass. You think you need more credentials, more time, more experience, but what you really need is more belief, more self-trust, because no amount of external success can fill the gap left by internal doubt. Smart women stop outsourcing their worth. They don't wait for someone else to clap before they celebrate themselves. They clap first, because they know that waiting to be validated is just another form of delay, and delay is the death of dreams. You've waited long enough. There's nothing out there you need to become before you begin. You already have everything you need inside you. Every time you hesitate, you reinforce a belief that you can't, and the brain listens. It builds patterns around that hesitation. That's why the 5-second rule works, because it breaks the cycle. You count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you move. No room for excuses, no time for fear to hijack the moment. Smart women make decisions fast. They trust their gut. They know that overthinking is just fear dressed in logic. And they've learned that clarity comes through motion. So they leap, they trust the net will appear. And if it doesn't, they learn to build it on the way down. Look, playing small never protected anyone. Playing small just guarantees you'll look back and wish you had started sooner. It guarantees that you'll live with a whisper inside you, asking, what if I had just gone for it? Smart women are done with those whispers. They're loud now. They take up space. They speak up. They walk into rooms like they belong, because they do. They no longer apologize for their goals. They no longer dilute their voice. They understand that shrinking for approval is a prison, and they've already thrown away the key. You will never be fully ready. That's the lie. That's the trick that keeps you stuck. You don't need another year of preparation. You need 1 second of bravery. 1 second to start. Smart women aren't fearless, but they're faithful to their vision. They trust the calling more than the fear. They move when it's messy. They launch before it's perfect. They start when it's uncomfortable. Because they know perfection is procrastination in a fancy outfit. They'd rather be seen growing than stay hidden pretending they're not afraid. That's real strength. That's real power. It's time to rewrite the narrative. You are not too much. You are not too loud, too ambitious, or too intense. You are exactly enough. Maybe even the exact wake-up call the world needs. Smart women know this. They've stopped trimming themselves down to fit into boxes never built for them. They've stopped playing roles and started leading movements. They know that asking for permission is a habit rooted in fear. And that habit can be broken today, right now, with one decision. The decision to finally believe in yourself enough to go. Because here's the truth. You already know what you want. You already know what you're capable of. What you need now is not more time, more reassurance, or more feedback. What you need is movement, action, courage in the face of the unknown. You don't get to your next level by thinking about it. You get there by moving. And when you move, everything changes. Your identity shifts. Your power activates. Smart women don't wait for someone to unlock their potential. They walk in like the door was always open, because it was. Every woman has doubts, every single one. But here's the difference. Smart women don't let those doubts run the show. They feel them, acknowledge them, and then choose to act anyway, because they understand one powerful truth. Your life is defined by your decisions, not your doubt. You are not what you think. You are what you do. Your future isn't waiting on clarity. It's waiting on courage. And courage doesn't show up when you feel ready. It shows up when you decide you've had enough of your own excuses. Smart women stop negotiating with fear. They decide, and then they go. Think about all the moments in your life where you hesitated, where you had the idea, the opportunity, the spark, and you let it pass. Not because it wasn't right, but because you doubted yourself. Doubt has one job: to keep you safe. But safe doesn't build a legacy. Safe doesn't change the world. Smart women don't strive for safety, they strive for impact. And impact requires bold, often scary decision. You're not supposed to feel certain. You're supposed to feel that fire in your gut that says, this matters. Smart women listen to that fire, not the fear. Every day you are faced with hundreds of micro decisions, and every one of them shapes you. The choice to get up when the alarm goes off, the choice to speak up in a meeting, the choice to set a boundary, the choice to hit record, hit send, hit go. Doubt will always try to sneak in, but decision is your weapon. When you decide, you cut off all other options. You claim your direction. Smart women don't wait to be pushed. They pull themselves forward. Not because it's easy, but because they've decided their goals are worth the discomfort. We spend too much time analyzing, overthinking, and spiraling in our own heads. Smart women cut through that with a single, powerful move: action. They don't let fear make their choices for them. They don't delay in the name of being responsible when really they're just afraid. They make the call. They have the hard conversation. They take the leap. Why? Because inaction is the real risk. Because smart women know the cost of not deciding is staying stuck in the exact same place a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now. Indecision is a dream killer. It doesn't show up with fireworks. It shows up quietly in the hesitation, in the procrastination, in the maybe later. And here's what smart women understand. Later is where dreams go to die. You don't need more time. You need to trust yourself more. Every powerful decision you've ever made started with uncertainty. That job you took, that relationship you ended, that moment you finally said yes to yourself, you didn't know exactly how it would go, but you made the decision anyway. And that's where the growth happened. You want to feel confident before you make the move, but that's not how it works. Confidence doesn't precede decision. It follows it. It's a byproduct of action. Smart women don't wait until they feel bulletproof. They start while they're still figuring it out. Because confidence comes from competence, and competence comes from repetition. You have to decide first. Decide you're worthy. Decide you're capable. Decide you're done waiting. And when you do that, everything shifts. Not just what you're doing, but how you see yourself while you're doing it. Smart women treat decisions like declarations. They don't just say, I'm going to try. They say, I'm doing this, and I'll figure it out along the way. That's how momentum is created. That's how clarity is built. Not by thinking harder, but by doing, by deciding to start and adjusting as they go. You can't plan your way into certainty. You earn certainty by walking through the fog with faith. That's what makes a leader. That's what makes a force. And every time you decide, you reinforce who you're becoming. Someone who doesn't wait around. Doubt will always sound smart. It'll tell you to be careful, to take your time, to wait until you're 100% sure. But that's the voice of fear, dressed up like logic. Smart women recognize it, call it what it is, and move anyway. They don't silence doubt by arguing with it. They silence it by acting. That's the only way forward. If you wait until you feel brave, you'll never move. But if you decide, even in fear, you prove to yourself that you can, and that's how you build the kind of unshakable confidence that doesn't depend on external results. Look around. The women who inspire you, the ones who've built something real, they weren't fearless. They were decisive. They made a choice over and over again to keep going, to show up, to pivot, to own their life. And you can too. You don't need to feel ready. You need to be willing. Willing to be seen. Willing to mess up. Willing to bet on yourself when no one else does. because you're not here to tiptoe through life. You're here to show up loud, clear, bold. And that starts with one decision. I will not doubt myself more than I trust myself. So the next time doubt creeps in, pause, acknowledge it, and then choose to move anyway. Ask yourself, what would the most powerful version of me do right now? And do that. That's the secret. You don't need to silence every fear. You need to take action in spite of it, because that's what smart women do. They don't wait for the fear to go away. They use it as proof that they're on the edge of growth. They trust their choices, they honor their instincts, and they refuse to let doubt decide who they become. There was a time when silence felt like the safest option. Say nothing, and you won't be judged. Stay quiet, and maybe they'll accept you. But here's the truth. Silence doesn't protect you. It erases you. Smart women know this. They know that shrinking their voice doesn't make them stronger. It makes them invisible, and they're done with that. They don't sit back hoping to be heard. They speak, they show up. They make noise even when their voice shakes, because they've learned that silence might feel safe, but it never leads to power. How many times have you swallowed your truth because it might make someone uncomfortable? How often have you bitten your tongue when you should have stood your ground? Smart women don't do that anymore. They've traded in people-pleasing for personal power, because staying silent just to keep the peace means you're trading your identity for approval, and that's a deal no strong woman signs anymore. Speaking up isn't about being aggressive, it's about being authentic. It's about honoring your experience. And when you do that, you give others permission to do the same. Your voice is not just sound, it's your signal to the world that you exist. It's how you draw lines, create space, and claim your place. Smart women don't apologize for being loud. They don't apologize for being direct. They don't apologize for being real. Because they've realized that every time they hold back, they reinforce a lie that their words don't matter. Your perspective matters. And when you speak from truth, not ego, you don't need everyone to agree. You just need to stop betraying yourself. Showing up isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about refusing to hide, even when the situation is messy, uncomfortable, or uncertain. Smart women don't wait until they have the perfect words or the perfect timing. They show up in real time, because they know that waiting for perfect is just another form of self-doubt. They'd rather stumble through the truth than stand confidently in a lie. They know the power of being seen, flaws and all, and they understand that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage with its sleeves rolled up. You can't influence the room if you're always sitting in the corner. Smart women take up space. Physically, emotionally, energetically, they walk in like they belong because they do. They sit at the table without asking for permission. They voice their ideas even when it's uncomfortable because they know the cost of staying small. Playing small doesn't protect you. It exhausts you. It drains you. Smart women don't play roles. They lead with realness. They stop performing and start participating fully, unapologetically. We've been taught that being quiet is polite, that speaking up is too much. But that conditioning, that's just fear in disguise. Smart women unlearn that nonsense. They stop shrinking to fit spaces that were never built for their full selves. They rewrite the rules, because if your strength is only accepted when it's silent, it's not real acceptance. That's control. That's manipulation. And you're not here to be controlled. You're here to be heard, to be seen, to leave a mark that sounds like your voice, not someone else's expectations. Sometimes speaking up isn't about words. It's about boundaries. It's about saying no. It's about drawing a line. It's about deciding that your peace matters more than their comfort. Smart women do that. They don't stay silent to avoid confrontation. They speak their needs. They clarify their standards. They set the tone. Because silence might avoid conflict in the short term, but it breeds resentment in the long run. And smart women know that resentment is far more toxic than any uncomfortable conversation could ever be. It takes guts to speak up when it would be easier to stay quiet. But that's where growth happens, on the edge of discomfort. Smart women don't avoid the edge. They live there because they know their voice is a tool, not a threat. And every time they use it, they get stronger. The more you speak, the more you trust yourself. The more you show up, the more the world starts to meet you at your level. You don't find your voice by thinking, you find it by using it loudly, proudly, on your terms. Smart women know that silence can be a strategy, but it can't be your identity. You're not meant to whisper through life. You're meant to roar. You're meant to disrupt, to challenge, to speak truth into rooms where it's been silenced for too long. You don't need to be aggressive. You need to be authentic. And authenticity is louder than any shout. It's the kind of power that shifts the energy in a room. It commands respect, not because it demands it, but because it embodies it. That's the kind of strength that lasts. There's nothing noble about staying silent when your voice could create change. There's nothing brave about hiding your truth just to avoid being judged. Smart women know that judgment is part of the game, and they play anyway, because they're not chasing approval, they're chasing alignment. They speak up because it's who they are, not just what they do. And they refuse to be edited by fear. The world doesn't need more agreeable women. It needs more authentic ones. And authentic women speak, they rise, they lead. You have a voice for a reason. Use it. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Not just when it's safe, but especially when it shakes the room. Because the world needs more women who speak up with courage, show up with purpose, and stand tall with truth. That's how movements start. That's how legacies are built. One moment of boldness at a time. Smart women have learned that self-worth isn't something you chase. It's something you claim. You don't earn it through someone else's approval. You don't get it by achieving the next goal or ticking off boxes on someone else's list. Self-worth is the foundation, not the reward. And when you lead from worth, the entire game changes. You stop negotiating your value. You stop asking for permission. You stop settling for crumbs when you are made for the whole damn feast. It starts with this truth. You are already enough. Not when you're thinner, not when you're richer. Now, you teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. So if you're always last on your list, always apologizing for existing, always waiting for someone to validate you, guess what? That energy teaches others to do the same. Smart women don't wait for someone else to crown them. They wear the crown first. They set the tone. They model the respect they expect, and that respect, it starts within. It starts with how you talk to yourself, how you show up for yourself, how you choose yourself even when it's hard, even when it's lonely. Self-worth isn't loud, but it's clear. It shows up in your boundaries. It shows up in your decisions. It shows up in the way you walk into a room and don't shrink. Smart women walk in with their heads high because they know who they are, not because someone else reminded them, but because they remind themselves daily. You don't have to convince the world you're valuable. You have to believe it first. When you do, the world starts to reflect it back. Your energy changes, and so does what you attract. Not from ego, but from ownership. This is where so many people get it backwards. They think if they just succeed more, earn more, or hustle harder, then they'll finally feel worthy. But that's a trap, because no amount of external success can fill an internal void. Smart women don't work for their worth. They work from it. Big difference. Their effort is fueled by belief, not desperation. They move with certainty, not neediness. And when life knocks them down, because it will, their worth doesn't disappear with the failure. It stays, because it was never dependent on the outcome. Self-worth doesn't mean you think you're better than anyone. It means you know you're not less than anyone. You stop comparing, because comparison is a thief that robs you of peace. Smart women don't measure their value against someone else's highlight reel. They don't compete. They contribute. They understand that their path, their story, their timing is theirs, and they walk it with pride, even when it doesn't look like everyone else's. Because real confidence isn't loud, it's rooted. And when you're rooted in worth, you're unshakable. It's not always easy. There will be moments you forget your worth. We all do. The key is to catch it. Catch the self-doubt. Catch the old pattern of over-explaining, over-apologizing, over-performing, and interrupt it. Smart women do this on purpose. They see the thought, and they challenge it. Wait, who told me I wasn't enough? Who gave me that belief? And why am I still carrying it? Your worth is not up for debate. It's not attached to productivity, beauty, or praise. It's inherent, and it gets louder every time you decide to believe it again. You want to change your life? Start with how you see yourself. That internal shift changes everything. Your relationships, your decisions, your dreams. Because when you know your worth, you stop chasing things that aren't aligned. You stop begging people to love you the right way. You stop settling for mediocre anything. Smart women raise their standards and then live by them, not from arrogance, but from clarity. Because they know what they bring to the table. And if someone can't see it, that's not their problem to fix. It's your boundary to enforce. You become unstoppable when your worth is no longer tied to your wins or failures. When you show up, not to prove, but to express, not to please, but to own. Smart women don't shrink for comfort. They don't overgive to be liked. They give from a full cup, not from emptiness. And that fullness, it comes from within, from honoring your needs, from being kind to yourself, from choosing rest without guilt and growth without apology. Because you're not a machine, you're a masterpiece. And that masterpiece deserves care, not conditions. Let's be real. The world doesn't always affirm strong women. Sometimes it punishes them. But smart women don't bend to be digestible. They don't dilute to be palatable. They show up fully, bold, brilliant, flawed, and whole. That's what self-worth looks like. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about saying, this is who I am and I'm not hiding anymore. And that scares people, but it also inspires people. Because when one woman rises in her worth, she becomes a permission slip for others to do the same. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to question your value every time someone rejected you or misunderstood you. That's not your truth. That's your conditioning. And smart women unlearn that. They rewrite the story. They choose a new narrative, one where their value is the starting point, not the goal. One where love, opportunity, and respect are attracted, not chased.